Good morning, everybody. It is Jeannie with Argy, and last week we talked about the projected cost of college tuition and why I felt like maybe it was so high, or at least a contributing factor. Today we're going to start talking about how we actually save for those expenses. Now, the projected cost of a child born today is $221,000. So this is a meaningful expense for any parent that really wants to help their child cover the cost of college. So how do we do that? Well, the first and most obvious answer that people go to is this 529 plan. It is an account designed specifically to save for education, and it has many benefits. The most notable is the tax-deferred growth in the account. Now, there's some misconceptions about the 529 that I definitely want to address today. First off, yes, each state does host a 529 plan, but you are not limited to your state's option. It's not based on where you live. It's not based on where your child goes to school. You can invest in any plan that you want to. Now, we live in Kentucky, but often recommend the Nebraska 529 plan because we like the TD Ameritrade platform and the investments available to us in that plan. So look at the actual provider of the plan, not so much the state. Now, a couple of states do actually provide a tax deduction. I think there's some that even do a tax credit. Unfortunately, not all do. I'm looking at you, Kentucky. That state income deduction or credit is going to depend on where you live. But again, it doesn't matter what plan, what state plan you actually choose to invest in. Now, another misconception is that the 529 account can only be used for college, and that's what most people use it for. But the definition is actually quite a bit more broad than you would think. It can be used for trade and vocational schools. In 2018, anything prior to college actually became a qualifying expense, so you can use it for private elementary or high school. So the definition is pretty broad. You can use it for off-campus housing, books, supplies, computers, computer software, even if you have a special needs child and there's some things you need to purchase for them. It is a much broader definition than you might think. Now, one of the other things I hear all the time is, well, I really think that my kid is a genius and they're going to get a full ride, or they are a sports star and their college will be covered. And that's fantastic. I hope that happens for everybody. But in the event it doesn't, you can still take a distribution from the 529. Now, the earnings will be taxable, but you can actually take a distribution and avoid the 10% penalty on any portion that matches the scholarship. So if your child gets a $10,000 scholarship, you can take a $10,000 distribution and avoid that penalty. So it's not like all is lost. Now, another thing that people tend to miss is that you can change the beneficiary of the 529. So let's say you save for child one and they end up not needing it or not using the entire account, then you can actually change the beneficiary to child two or another qualifying family member, which again is a little bit broader of a definition than you may think. It's not just for children. It's, I would say, immediate family or even to some degree extended family. So you can change the beneficiary. Now, I will say, I was always under the impression you could only change him once a year, but I couldn't find confirmation online. So maybe somebody wants to sound off in the comments and confirm how often you can change the beneficiary. I just know that you can. And then one final point that I want to make is the contribution limits to the 529 are pretty high. It is considered a gift. So for 2019, you can contribute or gift $15,000 per individual. If you're a married couple, then it can become $30,000. So the contribution limits are pretty high. Back in the day, we used to hear a lot about Coverdell plans, and they kind of phased out because the contribution limits were really low. And there's also no income limit. So you're not phased out from contributing based on your income. So it really is a great kind of starter strategy to save for those future education expenses. It's one that we recommend often. And if you go to the Vanguard website, there's some really great tools to project how much of the education you want to save for. If you want to, in their scenario, and it is a hypothetical example, but you know, assuming tuition inflates at 5% and the projected cost is at $220,000, you need to start saving about $200 to $250 a month when your child is born to fully fund the projected cost of a 4-year program. But again, a lot of my conversation with clients is, you know what, let's start with what you can save every month and just do the best that we can. Saving for college is one of those things that is a prioritization. It's a planning idea, and you and your spouse or partner have to sit down and decide how much of college do we want to save for, or do we want to cover, and how much are we going to ask our kids to cover. I have some other really great strategies and ideas, some that I've taken from clients, some out-of-the-box saving mechanisms. I'm going to talk about that next week because this is a big conversation. It's a big expense. I hope that you all have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you soon.